Hey, what up, everybody? Sig here.
What's up, guys? It's Norchetto.
I feel like it's been a while. When was the last time we did this? Has it been? It's been a little over a week, right?
Yeah, we've been doing it on Mondays, and it's Wednesday, so a week and 2 days. But yeah, it does feel like it's been a bit.
I'm excited. I'm excited to be back. Without further ado, without skipping into things, let's just get into right in. What have you got for us today, Norchetto? Norchetto.
I don't actually have a whole lot. We're still in kind of a in between period right now. The first stage of the World Championships start next Thursday, and they run through
Oh my
Sunday.
God,
That's going to be
it's
the
already coming up on us.
Yeah, that starts next week. Starts next Thursday. That's the there's four different kind of stages. The first one is in South Korea, so it's the Russian team, the Japanese team, the Finnish team, South Korean team, the Hong Kong team, and the Taiwan team from Taiwan, or Chinese Taipei, if you will.
Right, so wait a second. So this is supposedly the quote Korean leg of the tournament, right? And yet it has Finland?
right. Right. I mean, that's just where this stage is taking place, is in South Korea. But I mean, like coming up after that, there's a stage in the U.S. that has Norway. There's one in Thailand that has Denmark and Sweden and Australia. So yeah, like it's just kind of well, then again, the one in France is just people from Europe. But yeah, that's coming up starting next Thursday. So we'll get our first look at the world teams, the country teams. There's been a few scrims that have been broadcast.
Yeah.
So I think France, or not France. I think Canada and maybe it was Thailand or something like that. Did a scrim stream, but yeah, I haven't had a chance to watch any of those. And beyond that, we still have All-Star Weekend coming up on the 25th and 26th, so we'll be checking that out. We do have something that just came up. I think today is a guy named Jane. He does VOD reviews. He does coaching. He actually is one of the coaches for the Canadian team, and he just got hired on as the assistant coach for the Dallas Fuel. He is hosting his own like $1,000 prize Widowmaker tournament. So
what?
I'm really excited about that.
I
don't know.
The arcade mode?
Yeah, like widow only. I don't know if it'll be headshot only, but it's going to be a widow only battle. And he said if anybody wants to come, like pros, contenders, streamers, things like that, just send him a DM. So we'll see who all signs up for that. So yeah, we got a few little fun events coming up, and then the start of new stages and stuff. No other real news except. We have had one of the major players in the Overwatch League has decided to step back and go back to streaming. Siegel from the Dallas Fuel has decided to retire from the league. Yeah, he's retired from the league to go back to streaming. He was a big streamer before everything started. He's been one of the big players in the streaming community since beta, and he said just like the season took its toll on him, and it's a lot of work, a lot more training than people realize. And he felt like he'd built up wanting to be a programmer for so long that when Overwatch hit and he started streaming that, it actually started happening for him really quickly. And then things progressed and he joined the Overwatch League, and he felt like his community that he built through streaming, he just kind of left them behind, because you can't do it all. You can't stream and do pro stuff. And he came back and he's like, I enjoy streaming. I'm happier when I'm streaming, and I want to do that. I want to come back to my community, the people who built me up. And no hate towards the Overwatch League. It's just took its toll on him, and yeah. So best of luck, power to him. Yeah, I understand the decision. But yeah. So that was pretty major news. He just announced that in the middle of a stream. It wasn't like he quit. I mean, Dallas had a farewell video lined up for him and everything. But yeah. That's not much else has happened. XQC got defamed by Kotaku, so. For some reason, just saying those words, I feel like that shouldn't be a surprise to anyone, right? That either of those things were involved in this. They said he said some horrible shit that he actually didn't say. I mean, he said some horrible shit, so why whatever. But so
It
that
wasn't
whole
that horrible shit.
it wasn't that exact. That was one of his teammates, but yeah, just a whole lot of like drama going on, but nothing really nothing crazy major. But yeah, that's pretty much it. What's going on in Heroes?
Well, real quick, because that does remind me, like, there's something I'd been thinking about, but hadn't asked you about. But the fact that you mentioned two fuel players right there's one other fuel player I'm wondering about, and that is Effect, who was out all of Phase 4, right? He like left because like you want to talk about a season taking a toll on someone's psyche. He just had to go back home for the last leg of the phase, or maybe it was in the middle of Phase 3 left. I can't remember, but I'm wondering about that, but also wondering that in relation to, is there like, has there been any talk about like, is there going to be a roster apocalypse or something at some point before the season 2? Is there going to be a mad season of trading of players, or are these contracts like multi-year contracts like professional sports players?
No, we are in. From what I understand, they signed I think 2 year contract. I think it would have been in the player's best interest to only sign a 1 year contract to see how big everything was going to be. But we are currently in the opening signing period right now. We are it is open right now. We haven't heard any news. And I think we probably won't until it gets closer to the end of August, early September, when it starts to get closer to closing. We'll hear more about trades and everything. But yeah, I mean, Dallas is going to have to rebuild after losing Siegel in Effect. I just don't know if Effect is. I'm not going to say he's not going to be playing in OWL. I don't know if he's going to stay with Dallas.
Right. That is the question for sure.
That the whole thing didn't mesh well for Effect. And basically, it just seemed like he didn't. He basically just thought that he was better than the rest of his team. Whether or not he is or isn't, I don't even want to debate that. But he'd get frustrated that they weren't doing as well as he wanted them to on certain maps, and he'd just stop communicating. And that's happened with a few teams, that there's just problems with communication. I mean, language barriers are huge, and culture barriers are huge. Even Fisher, who went to the Gladiators and kind of revamped their team, he got along great with them, and the culture really helped him out and be able to mesh well. But I still wouldn't be surprised if he left and ended up on an all Korean roster. I wouldn't be surprised to see him on Seoul next season, because there's just a lot of cultural division there, you know.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
But yeah, Effect is. I think there's going to be some announcements in the coming weeks, which we can talk about. That'll be nice. But as of right now, we are in the middle of the signing window. Players can get signed and traded right now.
When did it open, and when exactly does it close? Like how long is this window? I didn't realize it's going on right now.
It opened. I want to say it opened last week sometime, middle of last week, and it closes I think second week of September. So probably like a month,
3 or 4 weeks. Yeah,
3 or 4 weeks. And what I'm more curious to hear about is with these signings, we have potentially 6 new teams, only 2 of which have been officially announced.
Oh, right. That was what first prompted me to start thinking about all of this, was when we were talking about the Georgia Peach. I was like, is Atlanta going to draft Raucus's thick ass to their roster?
Oh, I don't think Houston's going to lose him. That brings up another. That he would be an icon. It brings up another like really good question about where are they going to get these new teams from? Is it going to just be a bunch of people that they pull from different places and build a team? Or are we going to see some existing open division or contenders teams just kind of dissolved in favor of being bought up by one of these organizations?
I don't remember. I know they conduct a search, right? Like, I guess they essentially have auditions, or like they ask people to come try out for them.
That is, it depends on the organization. Certain teams will put out, like, hey, we're looking for people that want to come and try out. Some teams will seek out certain people and say, hey, if you want to try out for this squad, we have looked into you and found out that you are someone we want. And then there's people like the Outlaws who, I mean, I don't want to use the word nepotism, but nepotism, where basically I honestly, if I'm remembering correctly, Flame, their GM, he said that they didn't even hold tryouts. They just pulled a bunch of friends that had played together at Worlds and stuff, like because he already knew that they were good together. So they just basically took the U.S. World team and kind of built a little bit onto it.
Right, which
But
even that is funny. Like they didn't have to have a bid war. Like there wasn't other people that were like, why don't we just do that?
and there may have been, and it may have just been behind the scenes, and we don't know. But yeah, they just kind of sniped. So I mean, you can go any method you want. I think the smartest thing to do is find an existing team that's been performing well and synergize as well, and maybe add on a couple of components to it. So I'm currently leaning towards these new organizations just picking up existing teams and rebranding them under the franchise name. So yeah,
Cool. Okay, so then I guess yes. Now I will move over into Heroes of the Storm.
give it to me. What we got?
So this weekend, actually starting Friday, like middle of the day Friday, is the start of the Western Clash, the mid-season mini LAN tournament for the second phase of the professional league, which is taking place in, oh my god, I don't remember where it is actually taking place. Let me see if I can find this real quick. That's all right. It's in LA actually.
Oh,
So
cool. Okay.
it was in Poland in phase one. So maybe that's how they do it. Maybe they swap continents between phase one and phase two. So yeah, going to be in LA. And so basically what I did to kind of get ready for this is I put together a little thing going through all the teams that are going to be competing at the Western Clash and like giving their positions, giving talking about how they performed phase one and how they've been performing so far and sort of what you can expect going into the tournament for everything.
All right.
And actually, I didn't consider this until right now, but you're probably not going to be able to see this unless you like watch it on my stream. And even then,
Yeah, I was
it's
just
probably
thinking
gonna
about
be,
that.
like,
It's going to be delayed. Yeah,
annoying.
I did get a chance to kind of see what you were working on though. So if you just want to go over it, I do have the image in my head, and I can we can put this in the show notes in the bottom of the video in case anybody want to pull it. I guess.
Oh yeah, and I've got to. Sorry, I've got to also fix.
I also want to, while you're working on that, I had mentioned earlier today that there was a specific play I wanted to tell you about, the Great Bamboozle that
Oh yes,
happened.
that's right.
That happened a little bit before we started doing this, which was in the playoffs between London and LA Gladiators, and it's one of the best plays ever. But essentially, what happened, and I can show you kind of the angles and stuff, and we can talk about it in depth later. But basically, Gladiators sent out 5 of their 6 people and did a massive flank. They moved all the way to the back of the point and pushed almost to the second point in order to wrap around and get some high ground on the backside of point A. This entire time, Surefour, one of their players is sitting on Brigitte, just sitting in spawn, not doing anything. About the time that they have 5 of their 6 players have rotated to the back of the point, London backs off to the front of the point because they have to defend the backside of the point, and they reset up. Well, about this time, Surefour switches off to Widowmaker, pops up to the high ground, and just starts taking free headshots because this huge flank has caused London to completely reposition their team to just get annihilated by a sniper. So I want to show you that video later, but it was great, man.
Okay, let me see if I can. Awesome, I can do this. No.
What are you looking up?
No, sorry, I'm bringing in your video thing again. It
I got you.
went crazy whenever I swapped over to the other window.
Yeah, right now I'm also trying to
Video production.
yeah, I could get better at that. I'm trying to get better at audio and video editing. I'm putting up my Atlanta videos. I have been looking at better equipment. Looked at a swing arm and a mic setup because this whole headset thing with the pops is not going to work.
It's been pretty good so far, though, I think.
Yeah, you got the swing arm, right?
Yes. Oh no, I meant like for you. Like I think yours has been pretty good so far. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We back?
Yes, we're ready. I'm gonna go into this presentation now. Oh my god, this is so like epic nerdy.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, that's what we're here for.
That is what we are the Nerdashery.
That's it.
All right, so the first thing I got up is I'm just going to actually go through the structure of the tournament and the prize pool, like what's up for grabs at the tournament. So it is, like I said, it is the first like mini LAN tournament that takes place in the middle of a phase of like a 10-week phase of Heroes of the Storm. So between weeks 5 and 6. And what it is there's the Western Clash and the Eastern Clash. The Western Clash, which is this weekend, is the top 4 teams from Europe playing against the top 4 teams of NA. And it's like standard pool seeding where like the number 1 team of Europe plays the number 4 team of America and down the line like that. It's a double elimination tournament. The quarterfinals and the first round of the losers bracket are best of 3s. Everything else up to the grand finals are best of 5s, and then the grand finals are a best of 7.
Okay.
And so the way they do the prize money in Here's the Storm is that there's $100,000 total money up for grabs. And by simply getting to the tournament, you qualify for some of that money. But depending on where you place at the tournament, you get a bigger piece of the pie. So the first place winner gets $30,000. The second place winner gets $20,000. Third place gets $15,000. Then you have fourth gets 10, and fifth and sixth get 7.5, and lastly, seventh or eighth get 5. And then the last thing that I have here is, I mentioned this to you before, the winning team gets an additional slot for their region at BlizzCon. So, like, by default, each major region gets 2 representatives at either the Midseason Brawl or BlizzCon, depending on what phase it's at the end of. But depending on who wins the Western and Eastern Clash, whatever region they're from gets a 3rd slot for the big LAN at the end of the phase.
Okay.
So, the first team that is coming in here is the number 1 team in Europe, Dignitas. Phase 1, they went 13-1. They were number 1 at the end of the phase, and they came up in second place at the Midseason Brawl, losing in an extremely close series to Gen G, the number 1 Korea team, in what many people think is the best series of professional Heroes of the Storm ever played.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
I need to get a bot of
that. Here in phase 2, they're 7-0. They went 13-1 on the first half of this year, and they are currently 7-0. For their notable players, I have all of them. Like literally every single person on this team is amazing. Wubby has for a long time been said to be the best solo laner in the world, and like being a solo laner is such an undervalued thing, but like it's so important because based on the performance of the solo laner is what enables the 4-man to do more of what they want on the map. Like you are able to exert more macro control when you control the far lane. And so
I got you. Okay.
Not only has like Wubby been doing that consistently for a long time now, but there's some people that are saying at this point that between that and his deep ass hero pool, that he's maybe the best player in the world, behind which that title has been held by a guy named Rich, who plays for Gen G for the longest thus far.
I've heard that name. I've heard Rich.
Yeah.
From Heroes.
Snitch is another flex player for them, and he's also, I think, well, maybe JPL is their drafter. I can't remember if it's JPL or Snitch that is their drafter, but like Snitch is like definitely their brilliant statistician on the team. Powick is their assassin player, and just like he's mostly a mage player and will do like he will just destroy people like 100-0 in 3 abilities. Just pops people. He's amazing. JPL, like he doesn't talk a lot. He's their tank player, but like he does what the tank is supposed to do and just like opens up the fight for everyone else around him. And then Zalia, one of the top supports in Europe. So I tried to put in a few extra little factoids about all the teams, and so what I have here for Dignitas is they're the number 2 team in the world behind Generation G according to ELO. They won the Western Clash in Phase 1, and as I just said, they're the best players in all their roles in Europe, like, arguably. They're amazing.
So Dignitas, they branch over a number of different esports, and they've been around a while.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and say, like, they are by far the favorites to win the tournament. Like, there is a pretty considerable gap between Dignitas and the next tier of teams behind them, in my opinion, and in most people's opinion. The number 2 European team is Team Liquid. They went in Phase 1. They were 8-6, ended number 4 in EU, and this phase thus far they are 6-1. And for their notable players, I just have I have the tilde marks because they're all just kind of like, none of the players on this team stand out to me, but they all just perform together synergistically enough to like perform well. Like no one really outshines anyone in anything, but like as a team, they put out really consistent performance.
This reminds me of our discussion between talking about Philly versus London, how Philly was just consistent and playing well while London had streaks, and if they were hot, they were hot. If not, then they don't rely on their consistency and synergy. They rely on their players being so damn good.
Mm-hmm. And it's pretty cool for them, considering, again, when you look at Phase 1, the fact that they went 8-6 and are currently the number 2 team in the region with only 1 loss. They've been a mid to top tier European team pretty much since they've been in the league. But they just got this number 2 spot after beating Method in Week 5 2 weeks ago in a match that went 30-something minutes, which is crazy in Heroes of the Storm for the last match to get the newly cemented number 2 spot. They fought hard for this. They're pretty excited going into this tournament, I think.
Wow.
So that just said number 3, Method, having just lost to Liquid. They have the number 3 spot. In Phase 1, they also went 8-6, right? Did I just say that? Yes, both of these teams were 8-6, but they finished number 3 because of map split. So it
looks like the phase they went 5-2, where you said that Liquid went 6-1, so that would add to it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so because they finished number 3 Phase 1, they did get to go to the midseason brawl, but they were put out in the first round of the losers bracket by Fnatic. And so for the notable players here, I have ADRD, who is the shining bald wonder here on the left for all of us. And
I wasn't going to make a comment.
But ADRD is he has kind of this reputation in Europe as the wizard, and that ADRD will draft some shit on you that will just seem like from left field, but it's some plan he's come up with that they've practiced in a scrib somewhere, and just he's considered to be one of the hardest people to prepare for draft wise, and it's just a really good statistician in the game. And then the other guy that I have here is Bad Benny, but this is a bit of I won't say that this is a troll inclusion, but Bad Benny sometimes has a habit of living up to his namesake, and Twitch chat loves when Bad Benny feeds. And so Bad Benny was playing on Fnatic Phase 1, and pretty much everyone said that he had among the weaker performances in Phase 1. And so they dropped him coming into Phase 2. So but Fnatic finished outside of the Clash qualification, so Benny kind of gets to walk around with a chip on his shoulder at the moment. The kind of interesting thing that I have here about them is that it's essentially a reunion, and that everyone that's on this team right now was playing on a team together last year, and they were team expert last year. And at the end of last year, they dropped Bad Benny and ADRD, and then Method picked them up at the start of the year. And so now they have back the guys that they dropped. And so, the 2 guys that they dropped, they had okay phase ones. Again, Bad Bunny was kind of weak. ADRD was like hit and miss sometimes. But yeah, so like it is essentially the reunion of Team Expert from last year. So they have played together and played together recently. So they don't have that speed hump that you have to get over when you're like coming together for a first time as a unit, really.
Trying to feel out the rest of the team.
Yeah, like it kind of comes back pretty natural, and it's just about like figuring out like, okay, what characters are they playing a lot now? But they're already going to know that just from their like research week to week.
Yeah, and that was like we were just talking a little bit ago about Houston being picked up because they had all played together and were on the world team together and didn't have to try out, because that's super important. The synergy and knowing, just being able to feel out your teammates and knowing what they're going to do because you played with them so long is super important. Things like this, you have to think as a unit.
Yeah, exactly. And playing together last year, they took third place at BlizzCon, so like they're a team to be respected for sure. The last representative of Europe, number 4, is the Leftovers. And this is a pretty interesting story. So phase 1, they were 2-12. They were last place in Europe. And now in phase 2, they are 4-3. So from last place to qualifying for the Western Clash. And this pretty much kind of all comes out of the notable player I have for them is their tank player Mopsio, who they just picked up. Mopsio was playing for Zealots in phase 1, who Zealots came in 2nd place in the Western Clash in phase 1. And so, like, at the end of the phase, like, they did okay, and they released Mopsio. And a lot of people were like, this is kind of weird, because Mopsio was kind of their strongest player this phase. So why are they dropping him? So they drop him, Leftovers pick him up, and I saw a thread on Reddit a couple of days ago. I meant to pull it up before this. But someone was saying that, like, this is actually the 2nd time that Mopsio has done this, that he's gone to a bottom feeder team and like single-handedly dragged them into a LAN tournament.
Wow.
In Europe. Yeah, and he just kind of as an aside, he also kind of has this ongoing journey of sorts in the community, in that his nickname for a long time has been Toxio, because he used to be notorious for just going super toxic in losses, like and like being really bad for teams, but like especially awful in Hero League. And like someone called him out on it one time, and like and when it happened, he came into it, he was like, you know what, I did that. And looking back at that, like, I kind of am embarrassed that I did that, and I want to work to get better. And this was sometime like earlier in the year.
Good for
like,
him.
And yeah, exactly. Like, he's legitimately put in work to it, and he did an interview with Caldor, one of the EU commentators, in this past week, where they talked about it a little bit. And yeah, it's just kind of become this like feel-good story of him taking the path to reformation that we all hope that toxic players take, you know, like the systems of silencing and banning people. Like, we would rather everybody just be fucking chill and just like be cool to each other, you know. And so to see someone actually decide they're changed their ways is pretty awesome.
And then do it. That's actually you'll hear a lot of people still talk shit about Jake, of all people, because apparently like 2 years ago he said some toxic shit and decided he wanted to be better than that, and has become like a shining example of what you want in your professional esports.
If you had not told me that right now, I would have never in my life guessed that, because he always has that like Dave Franco goofy ass grin on his face.
Like he's already kind of thought through what he needs to say. He's always prepared. He's not just going to react to shit. And yeah, apparently he used to be like, people still call him out saying he's a toxic piece of shit. And my response to that with anyone is like, when do they earn their redemption? Like, what does it take? How long does it take for them to be like, they're not a toxic piece of shit? They may have used to be, but you can reform and you can change.
Right. Not to go like way down a rabbit hole and onto like a soapbox, but like this is what like an aspect that humanity is supposed to be about, is reformation and like allowing people a chance at redemption and a chance to improve themselves.
Exactly.
So I didn't really know much of what to say for this team, kind of considering that they kind of just like came out of nowhere. What I have for them is what I just said. this is a huge improvement for them to go to last place and getting into the Clash. They beat
Yeah.
Fnatic. Like they beat the other like low to mid tier teams, but then also beat a struggling Fnatic to get here. So like they've had some good wins to get here.
And they're all Polish. Interesting.
Oh yes, they are all Polish except for Linked. Now that Mopsio has joined.
That's really funny. Where's Linked from?
Linked is Slovenian, I think. Yes,
Slovenia.
he's definitely from Slovenia.
So he's there. I mean, he's right there. They're all kind of around the same area,
Right,
at least.
so
Even
exactly. I just remember when I read that, I remember looking at his picture and being like, so everyone in Slovenia has like emo hair.
probably a genetic thing.
Right, but so the fact that they are number 4 in Europe means that they have to first play against number 1 North America, new Heroes Hearth Esports. Phase 1, they were 11-3. They were the second-ranked North American team, and they went to the mid-season brawl, but were put out in the round 1 of the losers bracket by Ballistics, who was the Korean team that Tempo Storm beat 3 times at the tournament. Phase 2, they're undefeated, 7-0. For the notable players for them, I again have all. So I'll just go ahead and go to this next part to tie into this. This is North America's Cinderella story continuing its streak of dominance. So the way this team happened was this was an open division team that won their way in at the end of last year. So they started in the league this year. And through an attitude of just like, we're the low men on the totem pole. The best thing that we need to hope for every week is to just learn from our mistakes and be better than we were the previous week. But like that simple attitude, but effective attitude has propelled them to greatness, honestly, in the league. And so the way that they came together was that so Arthalon and McIntyre actually have like old school pro credentials and success. Arthalon was on 2016 Tempo Storm. He was on Cloud9. McIntyre played on the Vindic. Like these were the teams that were big before the HGC existed. Yeah. And so BBJ, Ishbu, and Crowan were all playing on NA HGC teams, but were all dropped at the end of last year. And so went into the open, into phase 1, I guess. They were all dropped. So had to go into the open division phase 2 and hooked up with Arthalon or with McIntyre, who had been playing with another open division team, I think. And then Arthalon basically came out of retirement after 1 year to join these guys and them just like dominate the open division and went in. And so like not only have they gone from being an open division team to being at the top of NA and competing in international lands, they're currently ranked the number 5 team in the world by ELO right now. It's Gen.G, Dignitas, the other 2 top 3 Korean teams, and then Heroes Hearth. So like it's really, really amazing and gratifying to see the height that they've been able to climb to from such humble starts, essentially.
The only thing I'm going to say about them is Crowan's hair looks amazing, and BBJ, I guarantee you he has a Metallica t-shirt somewhere.
You're probably 100% right about this. And yes, oh my God, Crowan's hair. Magnificent.
It's amazing. I saw him and I was like, that's who that was. Because when I watch Heroes, I mean, I don't have like any significant relationships with any of these people, like where I've been watching them a lot. But him, I'm like, that dude is rocking it. So, yeah.
And then the last thing I had about it is I call them the blog boys, jokingly a lot of times, because Heroes Hearth is a website that actually is an extremely helpful resource, or it's a website with a lot of really helpful learning resources about the game. It has player guides, talent explanations, game theory. It's kind of like the go-to place if you're wanting to learn about the game. So from that perspective, and they pump all this into the community also. So they're trying to really improve the player base.
That's really cool.
So yeah, it's really easy to root for Heroes Hearth for their success. Moving on to the number 2 is who I always say, my boys, Tempo Storm. They also were 11-3 in phase 1, but were number 1 by map differential. As I was saying, they went to the midseason brawl. They beat Ballistics 3 times. They eventually wound up losing in round 3 of the losers bracket to Dignitas, who then went on to get second place. This phase, they are 6-1, and for the notable players, I again have all of them. I've mentioned before, this team was built essentially to be North America's best shot at international success. Every player that's on this team is, I would argue, one of, if not the best at what they do in North America. They all have been playing in the North American pro scene since basically the start of it, before there was even an official pro scene. The only odd man out here is Ben, which I will, I guess, go into the next part. So they're among one of the most storied and successful North American pro teams. They're the ones that have competed at BlizzCon in the past and had really good success. They were like one of the first North American teams formed. As I just said, they were recently #1, but just got jumped by Heroes Hearth. And so what has happened in this phase is that Song, who was their go-to melee and ranged assassin, retired to play Fortnite. And so
it happens. It happens.
And so they picked up Ben, who was at the end of last season in the game competitive league, Hero League. He was #2 on the GM leaderboard at the end of last season. So they picked him up, and he's kind of like their phase 2 replacement, because there was a guy they wanted to get named Swoy, who was living in Korea, and they thought they were going to be able to get him. And then
Wait, did you say soy?
Swoy, SWOY,
like,
or is it Sway?
Like the sound of Rafflecopter makes?
Yes, right, exactly. But anyway, there was some confusion, and it turns out they weren't able to get him. So they're now in this like situation where like Kala, who is their coach, is now their manager and is doing a lot more streaming and resource stuff. And Swoy is their coach currently. So it seems like they're probably going to like make Swoy their 5th man at the end of the phase when he's reached the eligibility of like living in the United States for 6 months, and Kala coach them again. But Vin's a good pickup for them, and he's like, I mean, this is like coming in from the minor leagues and getting a shot to show how good you are, and someone's going to be interested in him at the end of this if Tempo Storm doesn't keep him. So the #3 North American team we have is Team Freedom.
Freedom.
They were 95 in phase 1. They were #4 in North America. They are currently 5-2. And for notable players, I have question mark. Like, this is another team that, like, to be honest with you, I don't really know much about what to say about them. They're
wait. KZN is just BBJ in glasses.
I actually was literally right now, sitting here thinking that. You read my mind.
This is just the same player. This is the same guy.
He's playing for 2 teams.
one of them has like one of them has a Ride the Lightning shirt. The other one has like I don't know.
Master of the Puppets.
Flip them all. Master Puppets. Yeah, there you go.
So it's a team that they've been a mid to top tier team in North America since they were a team. They were at BlizzCon last year. They've had a pretty stable roster. Lutana and Yoda joined November of last year when 2 of their players decided they wanted to go play for Roll20, who was the #1 team in North America at the time and was kind of kicking ass. So like it was a good opportunity for them. But the other 3 have been on there since the beginning of the team, and it's a team that like they have good mechanical play and they win games, but the fact that they've had as stable a roster as they have, but are like always sitting on the outside, says to me that like they never have like all the right pieces at the right time. Like they're always kind of like just outside the power carousel of like getting to be at the top of North America. They're always at like the 3 and 4 spot, trying to get their way to the top. And so the last team we have here, NA #4, Octalysis. And so I have their phase 1 record in brackets because it wasn't really this team that did this. They were 10-4 and were the #3 North American team. And that phase 1, 3 of the players that they have now were on that team, but 2 of them weren't. This phase, they are 3-4. And so the notable players I have for them are Justin. I don't know if this is Justing or Justin G. Like his name actually is Justin something that starts with a last. So his last name starts with a G, but I think it's just Justing. And then Goku, who, as I have mentioned to you before, chose this name without knowing anything about the Dragon Ball Z series.
You did tell me that.
But Justing is like their team captain, I guess, and he's their tank, so he's their shot caller. He's kind of been the glue that's been trying to hold it together for the longest. And then Goku is kind of like their playmaker, essentially. And so, oh man, I just realized I was totally supposed to pull up a sound effect for this to be like, drama llama alert, drama llama alert. So,
All right. We should have played that when I was talking about XQC and Kotaku bitching at each other.
We're learning.
So many llamas.
So, the backstory of this team is that I was just telling you that two of Team Freedom's players last year wanted to go play for Roll20, who was the #1 team in North America and was like our best hope at BlizzCon. And this is who that team was. Currently 4 of the 5 people on this team were on that Roll20 roster. The only person they don't have now is Glaurung, who is on Tempo Storm. But it's been like a struggle for them this phase, as you see by that 3-4 record. They actually leapfrogged their way into the Clash by the fact that Endemic lost to Tempo Storm by a score of 3-1 rather than 3-2 in what was the very last match of Week 5. So like the last match before the first half of the phase was over. They lost. They needed to win one more map, and Endemic would be here, but they didn't.
Map
so
differential, man.
Right?
It matters.
So, yeah, they're still trying to come together, and it's probably going to be rough for them. But because of all of this, they're kind of playing with a chip on their shoulders. They're trying to prove a lot of people wrong because, as I just said, 4/5 of this team was the #1 team in North America last year, and so like they're really not cool with playing as poorly as they've been playing. And so the last slide that I have here is just the opening matches. It's, as I said, it's 1-4 versus 4-1 of the opposite region. But you can see here it's Dignitas versus Octalysis, which exactly. I was just saying, like, this is going to be difficult for Octalysis. Dignitas is going to stomp them in their opening match. It's not going to be close. Tempo Storm is going to play Method. I expect Method to come away with this. Like, Tempo is like, they're doing well, especially given the fact that they have a sub. And Vin is playing well, but they're definitely not the same team that beat Ballistics 3 times at the midseason brawl. They're definitely still trying to find themselves. And so, like, Method will be a measuring stick for them, but I think Method is a bit ahead of them. So that's the first 2 matches of Friday. Then we have Heroes Hearth versus Leftovers. And so, I mean, this is pretty exciting because I think Heroes Hearth has a shot to win this. And so, because as I was saying, because there's such a gap between, like, it's Dignitas and then Method and Liquid are, like, the only ones that are really going to challenge Dignitas. And Heroes Hearth is probably the only one that has a shot at challenging anyone else, any of the European teams here. So, like, they can beat Leftovers and then see how they can fare against Method and Liquid. And then the last one being Liquid versus Freedom. If Freedom beat Liquid, I don't know. I will put an American flag around my neck like a cape and run in my underwear down the street screaming Freedom. It would be insane.
This is the type of content that we need to get Patreon supporters for, so we can make them pay for that. I will pay for that. I will become our own Patreon supporter to see that.
So that's the end of it. That's what it's starting at. I just said starting at noon Friday, going through the weekend.
All right. So yeah, that's the Clash is gonna be it's a lot of good information next week.
And so I'm going to do my very best to watch as much of the games as I can and to have highlights. I try to pick some plays that happened in the Clash to talk about next week. So look forward to that.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, that's. I mean, there's going to be some of the contenders tournaments coming up this weekend for Overwatch. I don't know how much I'm gonna try to start getting more and more knowledgeable about the tier 2 scene. So I may check that out. But as far as reporting back, I'm not nearly comfortable enough to be able to really report on that stuff yet. But
Totally fine.
but yeah, there's going to be a lot going on this weekend. Well, we should have a good bit to discuss next week, and we should have. I should have a prepper for the first week of the world teams.
Yes! More material! Awesome! I'm looking forward to this.
All right, and last but not least, I'm sorry, that was all from you for this weekend, right?
Yeah.
Do you while we have this, I actually have this play pulled up. If you want me to give you a play-by-play of this great bamboozle I was telling you about.
How do you want to play this?
I guess you don't have that set up. I would just need to. I can change this over to screen sharing.
Possibly. What do you want to play it through? Okay, wait. So you're just playing it through Discord. Let me just like.
Yep.
We won't be able to see you. Oh wait, no. You get out of here. Okay.
Okay, so first I'm just going to show you this. It's a little hard to parse everything, but this is an overhead of King's Row.
Okay.
And this right here is where the spawn is.
These are the things that I need to see. What the hell
so
maps look
so
like.
here's the spawn point, and you come up and here's the first choke, and this right here is point A.
Okay.
You capture point A and you start escorting all the way around here to point B and then up here to point C. So this whole play takes place with gladiators coming out of spawn. London is set up here. Most of the time you'll set up on this high ground right up here, or you'll set around somewhere right here so you can defend. You'll rotate to the back of the point, fight on the point, and that's how you defend this point. So
wait, so you want to fight like on the back side of the point, you were saying, like around where the well is, down to the south of where your bounce is?
Well, that's you come in here and you come through the choke, and this is actually a statue.
Oh, okay.
And this is where the point is.
Yeah.
And the defending team usually falls back. They're either start up here and then jump down and kind of fall back. But the trick is to give the attackers space, so you stay safe even though they're taking up your space, and you just try and hold them back. But so in general, you'll see sometimes people come through this building and try to attack the back half of the point. Sometimes people come up here and try to attack from the high ground. What we're going to see from the gladiators, I'll play a little bit of it, and let me just play some of this, and I'll.
Wait, so was this in the Overwatch League? Like
this was in the first stages of the playoffs. This was when Gladiators and Spitfire were in London were still playing. And this is mostly, there's not a whole lot of good setup for this. This is mostly for me to show you, but I figured this is pretty good content to see. All right, so. So yeah, oh, it's skipping. That's what's up. Ooh. See, I have my push to talk set to where it's skipping ahead. So this is a problem. This is a problem. All right. So what I'm going to do instead, I'm just going to kind of tell you what happens, and then we'll watch it without my commentary. So basically, what's going to happen here is the Gladiators are going to push out with 5 people. Not 6. They're going to leave their sniper on Brigitte, one of their DPS on Brigitte, sitting in spawn. So they're going to come out here, and instead of attacking the choke directly, they're going to wrap around this backside so they can't see what's happening. They can't see their team comp. They're going to immediately wrap around this corner and come through this building. Now, what I told you is a lot of times people come back here and fight on the top side of the point, or they'll push here from the back. Not the Gladiators. They push all the way through, and they come through this choke. And then they keep going. They keep going towards point B.
Are they just disregarding pushing the payload?
The payload, you have to take point A before the payload spawns on this. Okay. This is a hybrid map. Okay. So, but right now they're not messing with the point. No, London is sitting here trying to defend, and Gladiators, they're just going that way. They're going the wrong way. Yeah, they're heading to point 2. It looks like. So what they do is they wrap actually around to this back side of the point, all the way back here, and come up these stairs, and wrap down this hallway, and then come up here way above the point on the back side of the point. So it takes them a while to get this flank set up, and it seems like it's wasting a lot of time. But what this has effectively done is cause London, instead of defending the choke right here, they've had to rotate around, set up their defenses back here to defend the backside of
So they are now in the choke.
They are now at the front side of the point, right through the choke, defending the backside, or defending from a complete rear attack on high.
Yeah, right.
Right.
They're now, like they effectively have separated London from where London would rather be.
Right. London, I mean, usually, like I said, you fight on the point and you fall back and things like that. But right here, yeah, London is having to set up generally where people attack from. So it's a very strange setup. Now, you remember I told you there was only 5 people on this flank.
Yes.
That's because their Brigida player, once this whole rotation has happened, he hasn't been seen yet. If they've seen him at all with any kind of abilities, they've seen him as a Brigida. Well, he quickly swaps to Widowmaker, takes the high ground, and it's just a shooting gallery at that point because they've set up with no cover because it looks like the entire Gladiators team is behind the point. So this entire flank, this entire setup, moving through, going all the way back here, was to push London in position just so they could do a spawn swap and have a shooting gallery for their DPS.
Lord.
So yeah, I'm gonna pull this up and play it real quick.
Oh, I don't hear it though. Dodging the bullets. Okay, so here's the point. They're skipping the point. WTF, mate? They skipped the point. Regina's AFK at spawn. Report Regina AFK! Oh my gosh. Three. So that he got 3 kills off of that, right?
Yeah, he killed their Widow, he killed their Mercy, put on some major pressure onto their Orisa and their Diva, and yeah, like you saw, man, he was just chilling in spawn. If you look at the camera that's on his face, he's just kind of like looking over his team, like, "Hey guys, what's up?" And yeah, we don't know what's going to happen now. You said you couldn't hear it.
Yeah,
what I was listening to was actually. What I was actually listening to was the comms, like it wasn't even the casters, but the casters were hilarious because they were like, "Wait, where is Surefour? But he's just standing in spawn as a Brigida. What is he doing? Oh, he's probably going to swap over to Widowmaker." And sure enough, right when they get in position, he swaps over and just starts laying them out. But yeah, it was a nutso play.
That's wild how like they could predict something that totally like random.
Yeah, like that like we're just going to mess with them. Like, what would someone naturally do if you rotated this far away? I'm sure it started like, wouldn't that be great if we could just pop a Widow up there and just take them out? Well, how do we get them into that position? Well, we'd have to do a major flank and get to the backside of the point and make them reset up. Well, can we do that?
All right, well, let's try it.
Let's do that. And they saved it for the playoffs, which was amazing. But yeah, that was one of the greatest, one of the great plays this season that I wanted to touch on.
Do you not see something like that in scrims though? Like, isn't that where that sort of thing happens? Is in scrims?
Yes, but a couple.
I mean, obviously, I guess they don't run it against every team, but.
Well, yeah, one thing that has been pointed out throughout the season was that league rosters can have up to 12 people on them. That's 2 full teams, which allows for internal scrims, so no one knows what's happening. And a lot of teams would, even if they are scrimming other teams, things like this, they would talk about but never actually practice with other teams because they wanted to keep a lid on it. And it worked flawlessly.
Having the second team essentially on roster.
Now, one of the funniest parts about this is I think another team tried this exact move in Contenders like the week after it happened, and they got completely shut down. So it's not just the automatic win, but yeah, it was beautiful to see when you've been watching so much and you see a play that just like has you scratching your head, and then you have that like oh moment where it all just kind of hits you. It's a fun feeling.
Yeah, for sure.
Frog fractions.
Oh,
Anyway,
okay, yes, that is going to happen. Hope maybe this weekend. We got WoW stuff to do this weekend though. We got to do that.
look, take an hour, and we're gonna play some frog fractions.
Okay.
I'm gonna like just it has to look. I don't even care if you like it at this point. I need to be able to talk about this game.
But I am bringing a webcam down with me. I am bringing some recording stuff down to the place.
The place. All right.
Yes.
All right. Well, yeah, that's